Hello and welcome to the Food and Energy Reset Workshop, what your body's been trying to tell you. I appreciate everybody being here. I'm Jason Powers, and I'm here with my coach, Courtney Krusemark.
Hello.
Welcome to the Legacy Brokers studio here in beautiful Lenexa, Kansas.
I know, I'm impressed. I didn't know there was something like this in a broker.
Well, I appreciate everybody being here. I've got... looking at the attendee list, we've got people from the insurance industry. We've got people from my personal life, friends and family, as well as maybe some people I don't know, or maybe you don't know. So, what really kind of started this whole thing was my search for well-being and wanting to live longer. And then a brief encounter with you at a conference in June, and that kind of led us down the path to where we're at. And we'll dive into that. But before we do that, I thought it'd be good to introduce you to all the people that are here, all my friends that are here. So
Awesome. That sounds great.
So we want to jump into the slides and show you a little bit about Courtney. Let you introduce yourself here, and you want to go next slide there. Connor. So who are you?
So who am I? So I am Courtney Krusemark. I am a registered nurse and a board certified nurse coach. And I am empowering individuals at risk for diabetes to lose weight, to stop craving sugar, to regain energy. And that's exactly what I was explaining to Jason when we met back in June. I spent 20 years in hospital medicine, and I've transitioned over the last 2.5 years into coaching individuals so that I can keep people out of the hospital. And that's exactly what we were partnering to try to do, is keep you out of that.
You had no idea what I had been through before we met, and it was a chance encounter. It was an industry conference that I was at here in Lenexa. I think when you came up to me, I think you said someone told me that I need to talk to you about distribution, and immediately, because I'm in the distribution business of insurance products, I start asking you, well, what kind of product are we talking about here? And you said, I'll never forget, you said, well, wellness. And I'm sure the look on my face was like, we've spent 2 decades chasing our tails on wellness, and all we got was people wearing Fitbits and winning prizes, but we didn't really get a good return on investment when we look at claims. And that was kind of the realistic, I think, response maybe my frown gave you. And I asked you to, tell me a little bit more about what it is you're doing. And then you mentioned, the population of employees out there that are being told they're pre-diabetic and would need to start GLP-1s. And I think we had just had a presentation at that same conference about prescription drug usage and GLP-1 prevalence. So it was super timely.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what you didn't know, right, what was under my hood was in December of 23, a stressful time in the industry, no sleep, constantly up, thinking about all the things I've got to do the next day to get groups covered by January 1st. We had some other stuff going on here that just was a lot of stress on me. And I showed up to work one day and I had chest pains, and the entire staff is like worried about me. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting in Bob's car heading to Overland Park Regional emergency room for a possible heart attack. It wasn't a heart attack.
Thank goodness. Yes.
It ended up being, pulled muscle, but 8-9 hours of being in Overland Park Regional, a lot of tests later, they discharge me and tell me, follow up with a cardiologist the next week and go from there. Well, I did that. I went through another battery of testing. I had already been taking one blood pressure medicine. I had been told that I might have high cholesterol, and my primary physician was in the midst of retiring. So there was no real vested interest in making sure I got got anything going. I mean, he was out the door.
Yeah.
It was, well, good luck with your next doctor. But the cardiologist added a second medication for my blood pressure, told me it was hereditary. There was nothing I could do. Told me if I really wanted to get after it, I could help the medicine by eating more Mediterranean.
We'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Right. Yeah, we will. It's coming. And then he told me that my lipids were, did a lipid panel. My cholesterol was high, and I needed to start a statin, which I was vehemently against.
Don't go to those slides yet. We'll
Yep.
run you through that story.
Yeah.
He's kind of given you the long and the short of his story, and you could actually probably go to that slide of Jason's story quick, and maybe
There we go.
I'll jump in there.
Yeah.
This is just a snapshot of kind of how we've pulled where Jason started, right? High blood pressure, high cholesterol, prediabetes, on prescription medications, even over-the-counter medications for heartburn, excessive weight, feeling sluggish, and kind of fearing that catastrophe that was potentially coming because of all the other men in your life that had passed in their 60s. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you even mentioned to me that you were thinking all these other people are excited about retirement. They're rushing to get there, but I don't want to rush to get there because that could be when I'm done. Right?
Yeah.
If I'm like the rest of the men in my family. So I like to show then after that you found, right, freedom from medications and no longer needing heartburn medications and not having the GI distress and feeling more confident. And like you said, December of 2023, when you were in the hospital because of a stressful time, reflect on that and how you felt this December going through that same stressful time, which you said you actually, I think, generated even more revenue. So you're probably busier.
Way busier.
What is the difference in the way that you felt during that time when you compare the two?
Night and day, Courtney. I because of the things that you've shown me, I have more energy without all of the things that I was using, all the stimulants. That's a good word. All the stimulants that I was using. I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday, but we have a mutual friend in common that, did you know he doesn't drink coffee? And the dude's super jacked all day long. And I'm like, yeah, I feel the same way with water that I didn't get the same thing from coffee. I had more energy, more sleep, less stress. I was just genuinely in a better mood all the time. This fourth quarter where I wasn't for the last 25.
Yeah. And some of the slides that we have now, what I want to do today is walk you guys through not just how he felt, not just what we see when we talk about it, but actually data that shows what was happening on the inside, so that you guys can see the explanation of maybe why Jason was feeling the way he was feeling, and something that I see in lots of people. So if you want to throw up week 1, this slide actually shows a couple things.
Remember this.
So this was the first week. Jason and Lori started with me. And the first week we come on our first orientation and he's like, all right, I'm already ready. I've stopped my coffee. I'm ready to give up everything. And I'm like, hold up, let's stop. You have to get an assessment first. We can't just jump right into these dramatic changes and go without knowing what our baseline is. So that picture, can you go back to that? Sorry. That picture shows week 1. What I want to point out about this though is I use Stello continuous glucose monitors to give us these numbers. This is a snapshot of the entire week, so it overlays, but this is what the normal range is. So if you got a Stello yourself and hooked it up yourself, this is what you would get. And if you look at this, it says time in range is 91%. So if you had that on yourself, would you say, wow, I'm actually doing pretty good? I only have 9% of the time that I'm out of range. Like, this looks pretty good. Me as a nurse in the hospital for 20 years, what I thought to be normal blood sugar ranges was 70 to 140. That's what this is demonstrating here. Now, I don't know. It doesn't go to this yet. So we'll come back to this. You can go off that slide now. What I wanted to show you with that is that this is where they were. Yeah, you can go to that next slide. These are symptoms that you feel even within normal ranges, right? These are symptoms that even Jason was feeling during those things. He's going to throw up on there a slide or a poll for you guys, and I would love for you guys to interact. How many of you guys feel 1, 2, 5, all of the above symptoms of weight gain, especially in the middle, fatigue, especially like right when you hit the couch at the end of the day, or even those afternoon slumps at 2:00. A lot of you guys may be high performing professionals, so you push yourself past that 2:00 slump, but you get home. And I have a story about a client of mine later that you hit the couch when you get home and you're just worthless and you have nothing left to give. Or maybe that brain fog, that GI distress, irritability, anxiety, depression. All of these are very common symptoms of blood sugar dysregulation, and I'm going to explain that here in a minute. But do we have
Courtney? We've got results coming up. Looks like I'll give it just another second or two, but it looks like a lot of people experiencing weight gain, poor sleep. Looks like I'll share the results here. So. Overwhelmingly weight gain and poor sleep. You guys can't see them on screen there, but we got some folks with hunger, brain fog, fatigue
is a huge one.
Afternoon slumps. That afternoon slump is the biggest one. The amount of times that I hit with 2:00 and then just slide doesn't happen anymore. Digestive issues, irritability, anxiety.
Absolutely.
So a little bit of everything. Everybody's got to have a little bit of everything.
So if you'll advance to that next slide, this is what I believe many of you guys are experiencing, something called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, depending on what world you're in, is a buzzword. It's a buzzword in my world, but it's something that's going on 10 to 15 years before you even are diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes. So you could have high levels of insulin, and what happens is we get on this roller coaster every single day. The American diet is very heavily entrenched with highly refined carbohydrates. And even people who think that they're making really healthy choices and they're trying really hard to make the healthy choice are experiencing this kind of roller coaster ride that I demonstrated on that slide, where you are either getting on the Timberwolf or you're getting on the kiddie coaster every single day. And while the Timberwolf is super exciting, it's got dopamine hits and it's, it's fun and your hair's blowing back, you don't stay at the amusement park all day, every day. You can't ride that ride continuously. And that's what's exhausting us. That's what's making us feel fatigued, because our body is running like we're being chased by a bear constantly. So instead, what we need to do is get on that kiddie coaster. And while it sounds boring and not very much fun, right? It's not the ice cream and the pizza. It's not as fun, but you don't need a seatbelt. You can look around, you can enjoy the ride, and you can be more present. And that's what I'm finding over and over again with my clients, and Jason and Lori spoke to that too, is that you just feel more present in your life. You can engage in it more. You can actually be aware of all the things happening in your world. So if you flip onto that next slide, this might be my story. What do I got next here?
Yep.
Nope. Stay on that one. So this is what optimal ranges. So this is that same slide of Jason's first week before he made any changes. So this is his baseline. And I put in there what I see as optimal ranges based on the research that I've done, that yes, technically normal can be between 70 and 140. However, optimal ranges are between 70 and 120. And so when I shift that on his curve, you see that he was only in target range about 43% of the time. Is that what that says?
Yeah.
And so
it went from an A- student to an F.
To an F, yes, to an F student. So that is remarkably different. And so that is the key of why having somebody who's knowledgeable about reading these continuous glucose monitors is really helpful and supportive in walking through this journey and understanding what changes. Now go ahead and shift to the next slide. I think I have 2 weeks later. So once Jason, and then I'm going to throw this back to you to say kind of what were the biggest changes you made at the beginning. He made some pretty simple changes in those first couple weeks. What were those simple changes that you made that allowed you to drop your average daily blood sugar by 10%? And I know 10% doesn't sound like a lot, but it's huge in the research on what it will do for your risk of cardiovascular disease and other metabolic diseases. And so reducing your claim rates and everything else. And don't worry, we're going to get further and he drops even more, but he's now at 81% in range, in this optimal range, not the normal range. What were the big differences?
The subtle changes were, I started to wean myself off of coffee and Diet Coke, and I didn't quite eliminate it all. But I think this was Green Light Foods was maybe the first couple in the first few weeks. you showed me some alternative things that I could, if you normally eat this, try this. If you normally do this, try that. And when I was eating, that was the other thing, was when I was eating. And then later, I get it all mixed up, but later I know we talked about intentional eating and not just eating, not just standing at the fridge kind of thing, but
sitting at the table.
Yeah, like
without
actually
the TV
sitting
on?
down and enjoying a meal. It's funny because we translate that here at the office, and like when we have lunch, it's let's go sit in the conference room and remember that we ate, so that later I don't go, did I have lunch? But probably the biggest thing was the green light foods. That first 2 weeks was the green light foods, and then when I was putting food in my body and when I wasn't putting food in my body, when I was giving my body a rest.
And do you remember?
And lots of water.
It was in our third meeting, so that would have been at the end of those 2 weeks. You said to me, "Gosh, I feel kind of dizzy," and I said, "What's your blood pressure?" And do you remember what it was?
I was still taking my blood pressure medicine. It was a Saturday morning. I had not taken my blood pressure medicine yet. I had just sat down and was scrolling through my phone on email or something, and I stood up. And I immediately was like, I gotta sit down. I was dizzy. I was really nervous because then it didn't go away, and I got really freaked out. Lori runs upstairs, grabs my blood pressure medicine, hands me my blood pressure medicine. She's like, you didn't take your medicine yet. So popped a pill, took a drink of water, and then it hit me as soon as I swallowed that pill. I'm like, wait a minute. I need to measure my blood pressure. So I measured my blood pressure, and it was like 90/65 or something. And I think I'd never seen my numbers that low. I am constantly a 140 over high 90s.
Even on medications.
Even on medications. Like that's why I was like, they wanted me to go to 2 medications because I was hereditary. I was genetic. I just got bad genes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was well below normal range, crashing. And then I added medication on top of it. I think I texted my primary doctor and I said, oh my gosh, what did I do? She's like, you'll be fine. Just don't take any more medication until I tell you to. And then I think I reached out to you to let you know, like, this is crazy. This is all within just really subtle changes to my nutrition.
Yeah. Within 2 weeks. Which is mind-blowing. So if you go ahead and throw up the next slide, Jason continues to walk down. And I don't know that you continue to make any major changes, but as you continue to regulate your blood sugar, to reduce your insulin resistance, then you dropped almost 20% in your average daily blood sugar, putting yourself down to around 99, and you were like 98% or 96% in your
back to
range.
an A student.
A+ student.
A+, yeah.
And so this is the dramatic results that you can do just from baby steps and swaps, right? Not any crazy dramatic changes. If you want to throw up the next slide, that might guide us. Oh, so I tell this story not just because I'm clinical, right? Not just because I spent 20 years in the hospital. It is partially because of that. That's what makes me passionate. But I also lived this same experience, right? I didn't look like it on the outside. I didn't have the extra pounds, but I was exhausted. I was hitting my wall at 2:00 every day. I was surviving as an ICU nurse on coffee and French fries and brownies to get myself through all those extra little bursts to make it through a long 12-hour shift. But it wasn't until I understood food as medicine that connected the pieces that started to allow me to see that I could have sustained energy. I didn't have to have crashes. And I even had blood sugar dysregulation, even without having diabetes. I had a history of it. My dad has diabetes. My grandfather had diabetes. And so I do have a history of it. And I could be like my father and continuously say, oh, it's just genetic. It's hereditary. But I like to speak to this on this slide about the hereditary nature of that. Jason, you were told over and over again that it's hereditary. Just accept it. They tried to push GLP-1s on you even because of that. But I want to give you guys a new understanding about food, and that food isn't just calories. We've thought for a long time of food as calories, but that's just an energy source. Calories are just simple energy that burns, but food is actually code for your body. And so every time you eat something, whatever you put in your body, it's giving biochemical messages to your genes to either turn on or turn off the genetic material. So actually, if you look at, and I don't have the actual data for it, but there is research out there about like the BRCA gene, which is the one that everybody knows about. And if you have the BRCA gene, you go and you like get everything removed because your risk of having breast cancer is enormous. But if they look at the data back in like, I think it was the 1950s or maybe even back in the 1920s, people with the BRCA gene didn't develop breast cancer to the rates at which we do nowadays. Yeah. And so how much is our standard American diet and what we put in our body, and even the chemical influences? It's not just the food that we eat, it's all of the influences in our environment. But the thing that we're talking about is food because it's the thing we have the most control over. So I want you guys to change your thinking of food not just as energy and fuel in the sense of get me from point A to point B and survive through the day, but food as actual information for your body that will help run your whole machinery as a human to get from point A to point B. And so your mechanisms are going to run completely differently. And then you are either turning off or turning on those genetics. And you're either feeding good bacteria or bad bacteria. In the world of mental health right now, where that's just a huge number, and I've probably with your people with claims in the insurance industry, mental health is a bigger thing that people are thinking about now because there's so many more people on medications. There's so much more risk there. Well, 90% of your serotonin, which is what we are using medication to reuptake and have more of in our body when we have anxiety and depression, 90% of that is actually made in your gut. So if your gut is out of whack and out of balance and you have bad bacteria in your gut and you don't have the right microbiome and bacteria, then you can't produce the serotonin that you need. And so that's a good reason why maybe we are more imbalanced and we're having more struggles with our mental health. There's other factors. I don't think that's the only factor, but that is a piece of the puzzle, right? The other thing we said we were going to talk about today is sort of healthy eating and what are those choices that we make as we eat healthy. So I like to use this slide. This was also the very first week of Jason's journey. Yeah. And I still remember when we were reflecting on it on week 2 when we met to look at the assessment, he was like, oh yeah, my cardiologist told me that I should eat Mediterranean. And so I was hungry, so I went to Medis and I had Mediterranean food. Well, if you look at that bottom slide there, you can see what happened in his body when he was eating Medis. And it's not like he got anything dramatic. He got like hummus and baba ganoush and pita and chicken shawarma, I think is what you told me. But he spiked. And if you notice after that, he also had what I see oftentimes, which is post-meal hypoglycemia, where you drop below where you were when you started. And that's where you get fatigue. That's where you get cravings. That's where you often generate all these other symptoms that we had on that slide that people were talking about before. But if you also notice on the one above it, you'll see that his choice for his afternoon snack was like nuts and popcorn. Well, it spiked him 75 points. And when I'm looking at these, I'm looking for a spike. Anything over 30-point change from baseline is considered a spike. And that's where we get into some of these symptoms that we talked about. And that's where we get on that like Timberwolf roller coaster instead of being on like the calm, steady kiddie coaster. So I want to kind of throw back at you guys the health food myth, right? Calories, fat, sugar, and Jason's going to put up another poll for us about kind of our own mentality and what we think of. And what was the question on that poll?
When it comes to food choices, what drives you the most? Convenience, taste, habit, social setting, trying to be healthy, trying to lose weight? We're not really sure anymore. Oh, it's already up.
No. I was telling him not to put the next slide up.
Go ahead.
But yeah, go ahead and answer that question, because I love these things, because when I am talking to clients or potential clients or whatever, timing, convenience, all of those things play a huge role in our decisions, especially health-wise. But we were just talking the other day and I said, hey, how would you categorize your sort of diet now?
I'm glad you air quoted that.
Yeah, because it's not really a diet, right? It is a diet because it's what we eat. It's what we put into our body. But everybody says, what diet are you on or whatnot? And so do you remember what you told me the other day? Yeah. What do you call it?
It's an intentional diet.
Yeah.
I'm very intentional about what it is I decide I'm going to put in my body now. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't before. I was like, whatever, that looks good. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it looks good. It smells good. Yes, I want that giant heart attack in a sack. Like I want the ease of going through McDonald's drive-through to get 2 McChicken sandwiches, a large fry, and a large Diet Coke. $6.38. Well, might be more than that nowadays, but that's what it used to be. But it, but now it's intentional. Now now I'm looking for color. Now I'm looking for, I'm looking for the things that I know are going to give me the energy that I need. The things that are going to help me recode my body. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results here. Convenience is overall number one.
Absolutely.
Taste, trying to be healthy, social setting, not really sure anymore. A little bit of habit, a little bit of trying to lose weight. So,
yeah. And I hear that all the time, convenience. And I sometimes throw back at people, how convenient is it if you're exhausted later? How convenient is it? So we get exhausted and we lean into convenience because it is all we have the energy for. But sometimes it takes that first step of making the difference, of being more intentional, like Jason was talking about, to get that energy. And then you have more energy to push past the convenience. Or you just have to learn how to create healthy foods that are convenient, how to have what we call snack dinners in our house, where you pull out the baby carrots and the cut up veggies that you already have and the hummus and the olives and the pickles and whatever, and that's dinner, right? That's just as quick as if I went to McDonald's. It's actually probably faster because I didn't have to get in the car and drive there. On this next slide, I want to show you guys, a lot of us think about making healthy choices and healthy eating based on calories. And I love to use this slide to demonstrate how a calorie is not a calorie. 150 calories of soda and 150 calories of broccoli are not the same, right? Just like this, it shows 150 calories of donuts. This is another blood sugar curve. It looks different than what was on the slides that Jason had, but you can see that spikes your blood sugar on the donut probably close to 100 points. Whereas if you have 150 calories of must be plain Greek yogurt. Most of the Greek yogurt in the store, if it's flavored, has 18 grams of sugar added to it. Or now there's a lot of new ones because of the keto diet that's out there. There's a lot of the 2 gram, whatever. I'm just not sure what they use to make it sweet. But, but if you use plain Greek yogurt, you're going to be on that kiddie coaster and you're going to have energy that's sustained. That's actually what I ate on there right here. I have this pumpkin yogurt bowl pretty much every day, and it lasts me probably 4 to 5 hours because it's got a lot of good fat. If anybody grew up in the low fat generation, I apologize. Don't click away just yet because I'm going to explain this one at the bottom. But fat is not scary anymore as long as it's the right kind of fat. Now, fried food fat, totally different, but good, healthy, omega-3 rich, high quality fat is going to make you feel full for a really long time. It's going to give you energy that will sustain you throughout the day. You're not going to have cravings anymore. I have clients all the time that say, I did not believe you at all that you said my cravings would go away. Like that food noise that everybody loves the GLP-1s for, because it takes away the food noise. And I totally get it because the food noise is overwhelming. But you can get rid of the food noise by changing your diet. It's really these carbs and this food industry food that triggers all of those responses that are perpetuating that cycle. So the other example I have about calories and what we choose, this is an example. The store-bought yogurt and the granola shows what most of the time we would say is a really healthy option, right? You're at a buffet or you're at a conference and usually they have the pastries or they might have the option to make your own granola and yogurt. But oftentimes there's so much sugar in that you don't realize you're making the healthy choice, but you're probably going to have a similar response. Not quite as bad as the donut, but pretty close to it. Whereas if you at home do it yourself with just plain yogurt and berries and nuts, you're going to have a dramatically different response. And so this is the type of thing. What happens with our blood sugar under the surface that we can't see gives us dramatic information that helps us know and understand how to balance things out. And I'll show you here in a minute how some simple shifts can change. You could have almost the same thing, but simple shifts are going to change what our blood sugar does, and it changes how you feel later. You can go ahead and click off of that. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're good. What is our next slide? Okay, so then I want to show you, because what we're going to show you at the end is something about doing a continuous glucose monitor challenge. Part of this, what Jason went through, is using the continuous glucose monitor to really uncover what was going on under the surface so that we weren't guessing anymore. We weren't just saying, hey, this is what everybody said you should be eating. I like to take the should out of all of it. But when we look at metabolic data, which the continuous glucose monitor gives us, we can start to identify some of these things like real-time reactions to food, patterns of when you're stress eating, things that happen either in the morning versus night. Some people can eat the same meal early in the day versus in the evening and have a very different response with your blood sugar. And then also just how these small shifts can make a big difference. So if you want to go ahead and go on to the next one. That's okay. This is just an example of how we identified stress eating and timing of meals with one of my clients. This is not Jason's data. This is another one of my clients, Vicky's data, that she struggles with like the evening transition. Get home from work, want to sit down on the couch with your husband, just chillax with a movie or TV or something like that. And every time she broke the habit, and then, you know, those normal habits that we have wired in our brain, they naturally come back without even thinking about it. And so she'll sit down with popcorn, and this is what happens. And I want you to see what happens. If she had, say, that same popcorn, actually, if you look at the top right corner, when she was more intentional about like, I'm going to stop eating after dinner, she actually did have popcorn on that day, but it's just like a little blip. But she put the popcorn in a cup and just had that, and that was all. And she didn't sit down watching TV with the bag where you don't really know how much you're going to eat, right? And it just kind of keeps going, right? And so this is how you can see these things, and you can make more intentional choices, right? You don't have to give up popcorn forever, but you have to be more intentional about those choices. We'll show you a couple more examples of things that we can uncover. So this is the change of what happened with her. Oh yeah, and I'm going to show you normal versus optimal. So this was on the optimal. It shows that she dropped at 9%. She also changed her time and range by 25%. But if you go on that next slide, it shows what, if we would have had the normal ranges on the Stello, it would have said that before she was only at 85%. She only changed her time and range by 12%, which really, if you see that on your own, you might be like, well, is it really worth giving that up? I mean, it's kind of nice to just eat the popcorn while I'm doing that if I'm only going to change it 10%. But she actually changed her results by 25% if you look in optimal ranges. And so she really was making a huge adjustment. You can go ahead to the next one. And then this is just the example of the simple shifts. This was somebody that did a continuous glucose monitor challenge with me. She was having a smoothie in the morning, which I think all of us would agree. If you're trying to eat healthy, smoothies are often something that we lean on as an optimal choice. And this lady was having a smoothie, and we saw it spiked her blood sugar to 170. So we were like, ooh, and she was like, I'm hungry later. I don't understand. So I just had her switch a couple things. I had her change the type of protein powder she was having, because her protein powder, I think, had like 25 grams of carbs in it. To like a collagen protein. And then I had her add some spinach and change from oat milk to any other alternative milk. She did coconut milk in this one, full fat coconut milk. And then her spike was only 119. So you don't have to give up the smoothie. You don't have to, you can go off that. That's fine. You don't have to give up the smoothie. You don't have to change these things dramatically, but you can, you know, just make some simple shifts, still have the same thing, and have greater benefits. And that lady who changed her smoothie said that she wasn't hungry, you know, an hour and a half later. She didn't need that snack. She was able to be sustained, and she had more energy. I do have some other client stories. Do you want me to tell you about other clients that got more benefit from these things, or do you have more stuff?
Sure. I think, you know, and I was just going to interject there that you asked me earlier, what kind of diet am I on? That's a question I get a lot. And it's actually a statement I would get from people, my friends and family is like, oh no, where can we go that fits your diet? Right. Like what, and how much longer are you on this diet? Like that was a big question in the early stages, was like, well, how long do you have to do this before you, like, this is, for me, it has not been a diet. It really, I know I don't want to be cliche, like it is, but it really is changing my lifestyle and being more intentional about what it is I'm doing to be here longer. That was my big, you asked me my why on at the very beginning. It was really tough for me to tell you my why, but at the end of the day, it came down to, I don't want to end up like every other man in my bloodline and dead at 60. So it was really about being around to watch my kids have their own families, and you know, that's all part of it. So yeah, we can go dig into other results and come back to some of the other stuff.
I can share that. But as you were talking about the why, you can flip back. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But as you were talking about the why, I had a client this week who sent me a thing on Instagram. It was like a video she found, and she was like, this made me think of you. And it was this lady who had fallen when she was a young kid down some stairwell or something and broke her leg. So she had physical therapy that she was doing. And every day she went to physical therapy, the physical therapist would ask her, what do you want? And she's like, I want to dance. Why do you want it? Because for her, dance was freedom, because she had had like sexual trauma and abuse in her home. And she was only 11. She couldn't really speak to that, but she just knew it made her feel free. It was a safe place for her. And then he's like, how are we going to get there? And she's like, one step at a time, right? And so every time she was in physical therapy, she'd be crying. She's like, this sucks. I want to give up. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't care. I'll stay in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. He was like, what do you want? She's like, I want to dance. Why do you want it? Because I want freedom. How are we going to get there? One step at a time. Oh, sorry. And so that was her mantra. And that's what is reminded. My client was like, this is what you did. This is that why. And I'm like, I don't think I said it quite as powerfully as she did, but it's a good visual to remind yourself that's what we're doing with our diet and lifestyle too, right? Why do you want it? You want to be here for your kids. You want to stick around for the long term. So it's kind of like, is this really as important? Is the extra piece of pizza or whatever as important as getting to see your kid walk down the aisle when he gets married, or getting to see their grandkids? And when we think of it bigger picture and we see the why, it helps us to make those choices that are in alignment then, instead of just the convenience. Because right now, if I'm only looking at right now in front of me and I'm white knuckling it through life, that's all I can see.
Yeah.
But if we can reduce the stress and whatnot, then we can get ourselves further into making those changes. So I've got a couple other clients that I can show you similarly did the same stuff. So Elizabeth is a professional woman who would push through that 2 p.m. slump that we talked about. And luckily she was wearing a Garmin watch. And so she had this great data for me. This was actually a month into us working together. But she found that because of the changes that we made and this data that we could see, she, as you can see, she didn't have to change her blood sugar stuff that much, but she did have insulin resistance. We knew it because she had fertility issues. She had PCOS, which are all very tied to insulin resistance. But as we made changes, and she actually did an elimination diet, which helped her make this cool boost. But if you see on the right-hand side, her sleep patterns went from kind of all over the place to just consistently in the 80s, if not 90s of her sleep score. And this is when she was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could feel this good. And so then she wasn't on the couch at 7:30 every night. She was out in her backyard, cleaning up the backyard and putting up the fence and doing all the things that she had put on her list to do that had just been pushed aside for years. And then this next person is Ellen, who was she was able to balance her mood, her weight loss. I actually was just on a call with her now. She recently had to go through the loss of her father, and we were just talking about it. And she said, I would not have been able to go through that grief if I hadn't found the skills that I have now. Right. And so what she said, I loved what she said. This was months ago, but she said, I never have felt so good in my body, my mind, and my gratitude. My brain is truly rewiring itself. Now, she wasn't perfect during the grief of her father, which probably none of us would be, but she has found skills. She was also pre-diabetic, and she's not anymore. She found skills to push through it that go far beyond weight loss and far beyond just what we eat, right? It gives us more balance in all of our life. The final person I have is an example, and I did not have her on a continuous glucose monitor because she was one of my first clients almost 2 years ago. She since has done a glucose monitor, but she was on Ozempic before we met. She was also a nurse. She is still a nurse. And she was so sick on Ozempic. She got results. She lost 20 pounds and she was like, this is great. I love it. But she pushed herself through all the negative side effects. And she ended up calling her ER nurse friends on one occasion and said, I need you guys to come over and give me an IV and some fluids because I think I have a bowel obstruction. Like, she was that sick. So she stopped, obviously. She gained all that weight back. And then when she saw that I was doing coaching, she was like, I need your help. And so we worked together. She since has lost more than the 20 pounds that she lost on Ozempic. And she's like, you changed my life. And her daughter, even, that's what it says on here, her daughter even was like, literally, Mom, she's like the best thing that's happened to you in a long time. And so she just has a new lease on life and has done things that she wouldn't have otherwise done. She just recently went to New York on her own. And, you know, as a single woman in your 50s, like going by yourself on a trip, she just felt so empowered that she took that on and was like, I'm not going to let this stop me just because I'm by myself or whatever. So, Anything else to add in that story? Otherwise, we have the opportunities for what we want to share with them. But
yeah, I mean, it really just, there's so many other things, so many other symptoms that I had personally that have all changed. We've talked about some of the obvious ones, but the cardiologist also had me do a sleep study and came back and told me I had sleep apnea and I needed a CPAP machine. And I'm like, I've put Lori through a lot in our marriage. The last, she deals with my snoring, complains about it, but oh my gosh, I can't imagine what she would do if she had to listen to a machine all night. And then the heartburn, he told me I needed an upper and lower GI because I have GERD and I gotta take more medication to fix that. And come to find out through working with you and looking at what I was putting in my body, I'm allergic to dairy. I'm allergic to the kind of dairy that we have here in the United States anyway. And so that eliminated all of those symptoms. I do not snore, keeping Lori up all night. So I'd love to go back when I go back, because I'll have a follow up next summer or this summer. I'd love to go back and prove that I've fixed all these things, and then I want to see the shock on his face when I tell him I did it all without all of the solutions that he gave me. Instead, I got tools from you that will last me the rest of my life. So it's been a truly life-changing experience for me, and that's why I wanted to share it with everybody else, because people are asking me, like, what are you doing? Which one are you on? Mounjaro, Ozempic? I'm like, I'm not on any of them. What supplements are you selling? I'm not selling any supplements. Like,
did you even take supplements the whole time? No.
Courtney, I haven't exercised. Like Lori and I finally started walking on the walking pad Monday. And that's been, I've been working with you since August. So it's not like I started going to the gym. I didn't do any of those things. All I did was change the nutrition and how I treat food and and when I eat, how much I eat, and what I'm eating and why I'm eating.
And stress, what was stress as a part of that? Was there any kind of stress management? Because stress is also a big thing that throws us into that.
You know how many times I use the heartfelt breathing?
I make all my people do this heart focused breathing, which is database through something called heart math. But stress is that other thing that we don't look at and we kind of ignore, and we just kind of say, oh, it's just a normal part of life. We just have to deal with it. But if we aren't addressing it, it really can be. It's the reason why we eat bad. It's the reason why we do all these other things, right? So it's almost like stress even before food, but nobody wants to address their stress. So I always have to start with food. My stress levels are down. I'd say that I can tell, Lori can tell when I, when I decide, I'll throw caution to the wind. I'm, when in Rome, it's New Year's. I'm going to knock back a bunch of bourbon in Kentucky. I paid for it. Body and mind. I paid for it. And I felt the stress coming back, when we got back to Kansas City. And, I told you it took me all of 2 days really to get back on track. And it was diligent, intentional, water, making sure I was putting the right foods in my body, when I was eating, why I was eating, how I was eating it. And without that tool, I think I would have just slipped right back into a normal cadence. Like, it was fun. I proved I could lose 50 pounds, but now I'm going to go back and do what I was doing before I met you. Yeah. Well, and oftentimes that's what we do, right? That's the mindset piece of this, and why I constantly tell my clients, like, don't beat yourself up. Use every opportunity that you quote unquote fail as an opportunity just to get curious and to say, hey, why did I do that? What was underneath that? And how can I do it differently? Because if we beat ourselves up and we have shame and guilt and everything else around it, then that's what keeps us trapped in the cycle of feeling our feelings with our food and things like that, right? There's so much emotional eating and there's so much rewiring of our brain that has to happen. And so it does take time. But we do have things, and I don't know if this is where you want to tell people, like, how they can start to, either for themselves or for companies or because what you just talked about too, the claims data with if you would have been on a CPAP machine, if you would have, had the upper and lower GI, if you
Those
would
are all
have
claims
had
dollars.
all of those things, it's more and more claims dollars. And so, what things can you do for yourself individually or for the people that you serve, depending on where you are or what
They're
you
all
are
claims dollars.
doing.
And I wouldn't have been fixing anything. I was treating it.
You were diagnosing, actually. You weren't even treating it. The upper and lower GI might just see what's wrong, and then they would decide how to treat it.
Right. But I mean, the CPAP was just treating
Yes.
it. The blood pressure medication is just treating it.
It's not getting to the root cause of
the statins just treating it. The GLP-1 is just, I don't even know that I would consider GLP-1 a treatment. The GLP-1 solution was really just, I have a client that told me that they treat, this isn't everybody, it's just somebody I know, they treat GLP-1s as a license to eat whatever the heck they want.
Okay.
Because he doesn't have to worry about it anymore.
You just don't eat as much because you don't feel as hungry.
It was like his little cheat code. And I'm like, I get it. I get it. And then something I think I learned from you, is that, GLP-1 is not a bad word. Like what we're doing with nutrition is naturally increasing our own GLP-1 production to fight off the insulin resistance and to correct that. So, just understanding what it is we're talking about here, and how we can provide that solution by just controlling our own nutrition and our own diet, right? So being intentional. I keep coming back to being intentional. So I think for insurance professionals out there that have joined us, what you initially talked to me about was wellness, right? And so I see in the claims data, I see a ton, every group has GLP-1s, or I've got, phone calls and emails from brokers that have clients that want to add the coverage. They want to figure out how can we get these people the GLP-1s that they're asking for. And there's a lot of demand because of all the commercials, because of all the overprescribing, because of, it's a solution. It's a solution and a treatment.
And it's a great solution for the right people.
Yep.
Like it's not something that I'm saying should be out of the marketplace. It's a great solution for the right people.
But I would have been just added to that stat of GLP-1 usage is up. And, and there's this fight to get, access to it at a lower cost. All we're trying about is get same medication at a lower cost is what all we keep talking about. And for the first time, I feel like when somebody asks me about it, now I can say, well, have you considered actually engaging with those same members on their own health journey? Because it's not easy. We don't make it easy in the insurance industry to navigate that. Nutrition, like dietitians and nutritionists are not covered generally by health insurance unless you have a corresponding diagnosis that makes it medically necessary.
Diabetes or something,
So we have to wait until the house is on fire before we can send in for help, right? Can we do something about it before the house turns on fire? And for my friends out there, and the family that have joined, really just, I wanted everybody to hear it at once. So
well, and if you want to throw up this next slide. So one of the things that I do as a snapshot, right? Because I said to you before, insulin resistance is under the surface for 10 to 15 years before you get to that house is burning down. So I do a continuous glucose monitor challenge. It's a 2-week guided investigation that is for 7 days first of when I have to just like Jason say, hold on, don't make any changes. Let's see what's happening. And then 7 days of making changes. You get 1 continuous glucose monitor. You get 2 coaching sessions to go through your data and to see where you could make small tweaks. And then, you get those results, right? So for employers and stuff, you could use that as the snapshot of like, how do we catch people that maybe have this insulin resistance going on under the surface? but this is something that we want to make available to all of you guys. If you want to advance to the next slide, there is a QR code if you want to sign up. All this is signing up for a conversation. You're not paying for anything here or whatever. This is just to get on the phone and have a conversation with me about it. And for just this week only, I'm doing it for $250 instead of $300. That includes your coaching sessions. It includes the monitor. It includes everything involved. And it's really, this isn't going to solve your problems. This isn't a solution for everything, but this is just a way to look under the surface, to look under the hood per se, and see what's going on with you. If you have things like Medis or nuts and popcorn that are shooting you through the roof, and that's explaining why you're exhausted an hour and a half later, or why you can't get through the day. Or I had somebody that her morning coffee every day was spiking her before she had anything to eat. And you can have a cortisol response from your morning coffee, but she was adding some creamer that was really high in sugar. And she was like, I was just putting a little bit in there. Well, you're putting a little more than you think. So this is an opportunity if you guys want to jump in and engage with me. If you're just curious about other things, you can jump in and engage with this and not do the CGM challenge. It's just a way to communicate and have a conversation.
And to be clear, the call, again, I know you said it, but just to be clear, the call is not, there's not $250 to call you. No. It's if you want to participate in the CGM challenge. And you presented me with that same opportunity when we got started, and I told you, I know what the numbers are going to tell me. Like I'm past that part. I know what my cardiologist said. So the CGM is probably just going to go, yep, all those things are true. You are putting bad things in your body. What I needed was the corrective, like the corrective coaching, the accountability. And that's why I engaged with you for the longer term counseling versus just the starter version. But if people are looking for kind of a baby step starter kit, the CGM challenge is a great way to get started. Especially if you've never really understood your metabolic data and you've never looked at what one decision about your diet can lead to, 2 hours later when you're looking at your numbers and you're seeing the fluctuations. I'd say that for those out there that are probably where I was, where you already know you need a little more guidance than just knowing the numbers. This is that deeper dive. This is why I said wellness when I kind of scoffed at wellness. Is like, well, yeah, we did the Know Your Numbers campaign. We did the everybody should wear a Fitbit, and if you walk 10,000 steps a day on average for the next 30 days, you'll get a free water bottle. Like we did that wellness program. This what you presented to me and what I am presenting to everyone else is the so what. Now we know your numbers. Now what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And if you have a population of people that are engaged and willing to do something about it, it's all possible. It's all out there.
Yeah.
So.
Do we want to open up for questions or anything?
Yeah.
How much time do we have left?
Yeah. So,
and I don't know if we want to leave it. You don't need that slide. That's fine.
Yeah. So
this last QR code is just for my website. If anybody wants to connect with me in any other way, shape, or form, you can go there. I don't know if we need to leave it back up on that other QR code if anybody's interested in the CGM.
I'd say at this
not.
point,
just leave it on
if you have questions, I think raise your hand, and then we can bring you in. If you want to talk about it live. We can bring you in on the meeting here and answer any questions for you. Don't everybody raise your hand at once. Oh, Jack. So Jack, let's see. I think I can allow to talk. So go ahead and unmute. Oh, am I going to be able to hear him? Wait, yes, I can. I'm going to have to turn you up on my phone. Hey, Jack. Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Well, you guys have been fantastic. Production value has also been very good, by the way. I had a question around, it seems like a lot of companies are trying to provide kind of like drug-based programs for their employees, and this will be more of an insurance question. Seems like that, you mentioned it, they're trying to cover GLP-1s, they're trying to cover different, weight loss drugs, stuff like that. Are there any companies that are moving towards more of like a wellness program as opposed to just a drug-based program? I kind of think of it similarly to a company offering like an EAP program as opposed to offering like an antidepressant coverage. They're offering like a program where you can actually go talk to somebody. I'd be curious to see if there's companies asking about that, or if there's any companies or vendors out there that are like, hey, we actually want to move towards a wellness benefit as opposed to just covering drugs so that people can get more, natural solutions.
Great question. I'm going to mute you so that I can turn my phone back down. But great question. I think there are, look, I get asked, I am actually actively working on searching for a wellness program for an employer right now, but it's not, I would not say it's a biological wellness program. It's focused on rewarding people for the 10,000 steps a day. It's the same old that we've had for the last couple decades. But I do see, what we do see is we do see advocacy. We see we have more nurses involved in guiding people through care, and I think the next evolution that should be happening, especially as it pertains to self-funded health plans, is biological wellness programs where we're actually coaching individuals, working with a nurse to coach them through how to change their own code. So great question, Jack.
Jack, that's my dream. That's why I showed up at EBPA as a nurse coach. Right?
That's why they told you to come talk to me.
Because, so that's my dream, is why aren't we giving people the upfront preventative care? Because I think it helps everybody, right? It helps the employee feel better. It helps the employer save money. It helps everyone. Right. It's a win-win for everybody. And so that's my dream. And with this like CGM type thing, my idea is that it's a targeted metabolic challenge. So you can, especially if you're self-funded, look and see with the numbers that you already have and the data you already have, you can go to even like the triglyceride to HDL ratio, which I may be talking at some other terms, but and you find anybody that's in a range of greater than 2.5 or greater than 2, and those people are the highest at risk, and then you can give this type of program to those people, and people have to be motivated. They have to want to do it, right? So the employers can decide whether or not they want to incentivize people completing those programs and how they want to incentivize it, but that's the choice that you guys have within the programs that you put together as you continue to put together plans.
Yeah. Great question, Jack. Anybody else have a question for Courtney before we wrap up? You can raise your hand. I'm not seeing any hands, so. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. That does it for our food and energy reset workshop. What your body's been trying to tell you. Hopefully this has been educational, if nothing more. But honestly, I hope that I've inspired anybody out there that might be thinking, I'll leave you with this. I thought for years, if I could just prove that I could quit all the nonsense and lose 10 pounds, then I've proven that this is all temporary. That all of these issues that I might have medically, they're all temporary, and that I can fix it at any time. And I'll tell you, the older I get, the harder it is to just drop all those things and fix it. And then you look in the rearview mirror and you start to realize like it's been a long time of going down this path. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate that you showed up that day, that someone told you that I could help you with distribution of a wellness program, and that you helped my wife and I both really get on a right track. So
yeah. I mean, that's my goal. I want to help everybody. I watched people in the emergency room come in feeling like crap, and we just tell them, "Oh, your labs are normal. Go home." And I'm like, but they're not. Like, what are we doing? So if I can get out there ahead of it before people end up in the emergency room feeling like garbage, how do we get out there and help people just feel their best and live their best life? because we only get one life, right? My sister-in-law always says YOLO, which is the reason why she has her ice cream or whatever. But I'm like, exactly, YOLO. You only have one life. We only get one chance to live this life. And how do we feel our absolute best when we're doing it? So
I'll say my answer to YOLO is YODO. You also only die once. So
correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Oh, I have one other question that popped up here. Awesome. Tony, I'll pull you in and
then do you want to throw up just throw up that QR code?
All right.
If people
Tony, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for the presentation. It was really informative. I appreciate everything you guys are sharing. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if you could just expand a little bit more on, some additional the services that are provided with this, and how that might work a little bit. What's included? What ongoing costs there might be? Things like that.
So Tony, question. Sorry, we're gonna have to mute us so we're not echoing. To clarify, are you asking about just for the 2-week continuous glucose monitor, or just what coaching looks like?
Hang on, Tony. Oh, there you go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I guess both.
Okay. So the 2-week continuous glucose monitor challenge is really just that. It's kind of an investigation. It's sort of an assessment of what's going on. And it really, some people do get a kickstart. I had somebody I worked with who's like, I just have this extra 5 to 10 pounds I can't get rid of, and it just won't do anything. And she had tried all the natural remedies. She'd been on all kinds of weird parasite cleanses and all this other weird stuff. We did that. And it did jumpstart her. And we didn't see it initially, but she sent me a message a month or 2 later, and she was like, I finally lost the 6 pounds. And I'm like, that's great, because we gave her some insight. It's insight. You can see it, and if you can carry it on yourself. Most people need more than that. I use the continuous glucose monitor at the beginning I typically work with people for about 12 weeks to start. I think what people really need is a year to really reset the neural pathways in their brain, because it's all about habit-based, right? It's all about these things we were talking about. It's our mindset. It's what we learned as a child. It's all these things that we bring into the mix of why we make the choices we make. So, but I do either the investigation, which is the first 2 weeks, or a reset, which is 12 weeks of one-on-one coaching, where we meet and I have educational stuff that you do on your own, and then we meet and we talk through any questions you have and whatnot. And then the year long gets into more of a community based, where you have other people that are walking alongside of you, cheering you on. You have access to coaching weekly, but you don't have one-on-one coaching weekly. And I know some people don't necessarily show up for all of the meetings at that point because life starts happening and it's harder to do 1 week. But that's kind of the progression. And as you saw, CGM is $2,500, or not $2,500, is $250 for right now. Coaching with me, I don't try to hide what my cost for people. So $700 a month for coaching at the beginning, 12 weeks, or you can pay up front and save some money, like $300. Or for year-long clients, it's $500 a month. And if you pay up front, if you paid for a whole year at once, you save $1,000. So that's really kind of how I work in my zone of coaching. Yeah, great question.
Yep, great question. Oh, all right. Anybody else have a question before we go? All right.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for coming out and doing this.
Thanks
and Connor,
for
thanks for spinning the tracks behind the scenes.
Right.
I appreciate the compliment on the production value, Jack, because you've been in the studio, and so we're trying to step up our game every time we come in here. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We will send a recording of this out, a link to a recording of this out, so that you can go back and rewatch it. Certainly encourage you to engage with Courtney, if nothing more than a initial discovery call to figure out what it is that you're trying to learn and what it is that you can provide, Courtney. Really hope everybody has a prosperous and healthy 2026. So
awesome. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Yeah.
Awesome.